Question: when is investing and when is it simply gambling? True investing follows principles, and truth is, these principles resemble gambling? Not at all. As a matter of fact, they look a lot like the house. Stay tuned. Today's topic, investing, be the casino, not a gambler, coming up. It's Jeff Drayton, Certified Financial Planner Professional and founder of Jeffrey A. Drayton Financial Planning and Wealth Management, LLC. Here, I share my thoughts on financial planning topics for individuals and households. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. And if you are viewing this from my website, go to the top of the blog page and fill out that sign-up form so that we can contact you when new content becomes available. You know, every so often, I meet with a prospective client who, I can tell, has an idea about investing that is very far from my own philosophy and what I think to be the philosophy of a lot of my colleagues. This type of person might think that I should be able to pick the next hot stock, or believes it's my job to wade through the myriad of small companies and identify the one that is going to be the next Apple. Or possibly, they think I'm taking a daily pulse of the market, know exactly when they should buy or sell. The truth is, I have the ability to do none of this. And to make matters worse, in my opinion, neither does anyone else. As a matter of fact, I believe that anyone who takes such an approach to investing isn't actually investing at all. They're just gambling. And gambling is gambling whether it takes place in a casino or at a brokerage house. Gambling has one set of principles that it follows, whereas investing has a different set of principles entirely. Principles that I would suggest are much more akin to the way a casino operates than that of the casino's customers, which is to say, the gamblers. So, what are some of these investment principles? What is it that investors do that is similar to a casino but different from a gambler, despite the fact that gambling and investing do have some commonalities? Namely, they both involve risk and uncertainty. Well, I'm going to list five principles that you can compare to your own investment philosophy to see where you might fall. Number one, casinos seek steady returns, not big wins. Have you ever played the game roulette? A big wheel that a marble spins around, eventually dropping into the slot for one of the numbers 1 to 36. Those who know roulette know that there are many ways to play. However, the best result for the gambler comes from picking one number and having that number be the one the marble falls into. That bet pays 35 to 1. Place $100 on one number, and if that's the winning number, you will now have $3,600 to take home. But of course, the truth is, the odds of winning are not 1 in 36. They're 1 in 38. This is because on an American wheel, there are also slots for a 0 and a double 0. Those two extra numbers give the casino an edge, which skews the odds such that the casino anticipates that it will get 5.26% of every dollar bet. That really doesn't sound like much when you think about it, especially when you consider that 5.26 cents on each dollar isn't profit, it's just revenue. The casino still needs to pay all of their expenses, their employees, the upkeep of their facility, taxes. In short, they have all of the expenses of a business. And yet, with that 5.26 cents of every dollar, they are able to pay all of those expenses and still have enough left over to make a profit. Why? Because that revenue stream is repeatable. Gamblers might get lucky and beat the odds from time to time, and when they do, they might even get an impressive payout. But the casino is playing a game that it knows, little by little, it is going to win in the end. A true investor seeks to create an investment portfolio that works like that. They seek a return that is, to some degree, both predictable and sustainable. This is why a well-constructed portfolio will typically not perform as well as the highest returning asset class in any given year, nor will it crash as hard as the worst. Investors are not betting black 26. They attempt to have a balanced approach, consistent with their risk tolerance and time horizon, that creates the best chance of producing a desired result. Speaking of best chance, this brings us to principle number 2. Casinos, as opposed to gamblers, have the odds with them, not against them. Investors do the same. Have you ever read or heard the phrase, past performance is no guarantee of future results? If you've ever come across an advertisement for a mutual fund, you likely have. It's a required disclosure that they are using to try to convey a truth in investing that there are no guarantees. Just because a particular investment performed to a certain level last year, or even over some number of years, that is not a certainty that it will continue to do so in the future. However, don't misunderstand this disclosure. It is not trying to say that history is irrelevant. The construction of your investment portfolio should be consistent with market trends that occur over time periods that are congruent with your desired timeline. And over long time horizons, several years or decades, economies do generally grow and markets tend to go up. And frequently, this happens with at least some amount of consistency. A well-managed portfolio attempts to take advantage of large trends such as these. It isn't betting on long shots or focusing on one-off events. In short, just like the casino, you want your portfolio to play with the odds, not against them. Do you ever wonder how the casino feels when a gambler does beat the odds? A win for a gambler is a loss for them, so obviously this must be terrible news, right? Well, no, not necessarily. You see, casinos know this is going to happen. It's why people gamble in the first place. And for this reason, they follow a principle that investors follow too. It's principle number 3. They don't put all of their eggs in one basket. Every gambler that walks into a casino is a potential source of revenue. For the casino, each gambler is an individual investment. Most gamblers are going to lose, which is a win for the casino, but not all of them. Some gamblers are going to win, and of course, that's a revenue loss for the casino. However, casinos aren't worried about that because they don't have just one gambler coming through their doors. They have hundreds, and over some period of weeks or months, they have thousands. They are not overly exposed to any one gambler, any one investment. Their risk is diversified over thousands of gamblers and many more thousands of bets. And when an occasional lucky bet wins and takes money away from the casino, that's fine, because several others will likely lose and more than make up for that loss. True investors do the same thing, in that they make many investments in an attempt to diversify away their risk exposure to any one investment in their portfolio. As a matter of fact, true investors don't just make multiple investments, they invest across a variety of investment types. They might buy stocks, both foreign and domestic, bonds, real estate. This is somewhat akin to what a casino is doing by having multiple games on their casino floor. If they lose money at their roulette wheel, too many winners that day, no problem. They still have blackjack or craps or their slot machines. They can hope that one of those other games will be providing their revenue that day. Let me ask you this. Even with their many games and the multiple gamblers that walk in each day, can casinos sometimes have a bad day? It must happen. Even with the odds in their favor, these are games of chance, and the very definition of chance means uncertainty. On any given day, they might just have bad luck. But again, this is not a terrible concern to the casino. Why? Because of principle number 4. Casinos play the long game, and therefore a one-off event such as a bad day is just not that much of a concern. True investors do the same. You know, if I had a single 6-sided die and I was to give it a roll, the odds are of course 1 in 6 that any particular number, 1 through 6, will come up. However, that said, even though each number has a 1 in 6 chance of being rolled, the odds that I could roll the die 6 times and have each number come up exactly once is pretty small. It's actually less than 1 in 150. Why? Because that sample size is just too small. And when you have a small sample size, such as say just one day of gambling revenue for a casino, there is a higher likelihood that this revenue will not correspond exactly to their anticipated return. The problem is small sample size, and the same holds true in investing. As a matter of fact, an investment portfolio should be given multiple years, possibly even decades, to achieve its desired result. Earlier I said that economies generally grow and markets tend to go up. But this is only true in the long term. What's going to happen tomorrow or next month or even over the next year or two is really anybody's guess. Fortunately, the types of investment goals that many people have, such as saving for a child's college education or having enough for retirement, are goals that have those many years or decades to reach fruition. And just like the casino, true investors don't worry about the occasional bad day. As a matter of fact, they don't even worry about the occasional bad month or year. Investment returns take time, and true investors understand this. This brings me to principle number 5. You know, I chose to contrast a gambler's mentality to that of a casino because, well, it just went well with my analogy. Gamblers and casinos, the two sides of that table. But the truth is, I could have used any business to contrast against the gambler's mentality. After all, that's simply what a casino is. It's just a business. And for that reason, casinos follow principle number 5, which is think like a business. Thinking like a business is somewhat of a consolidation of all of the previous principles. Yes, businesses seek steady returns. They have business plans that look for high probability of success, meaning they play with the odds, not against them. They try to have multiple revenue streams to reduce their risks. And they play the long game so that the investments that they have made in their businesses have many years to pay off. But there's something more. Businesses are not trying to make money doing nothing, at least not legitimate businesses. Businesses provide a product or service, and for this product or service, they expect to be paid. True investors are doing the same thing. Investors are taking the capital that is likely hard-earned from whatever line of work that they are in, and they are making that capital available to the capital markets. Very likely what they are doing is either purchasing an equity share in a business, most usually by buying stock either directly or in a mutual fund, or loaning out their money typically by buying debt, usually in the form of bonds. However, in either case, investors are doing something. They are taking their hard-earned money and using it to provide a service. They are making it available to those entities that need this capital, and for this service, investors, like a business, expect to be paid. A gambler is hoping to turn a quick buck. They're hoping for lightning to strike. As a matter of fact, the most common form of gambling is playing the lottery, and for that, the metaphor of a lightning strike is most apt. Your odds of winning millions in the lottery are not dissimilar from those of being struck by lightning. I'm not trying to be critical. Between the two, I'd rather win the lottery. But turning a quick buck, or any get-rich-quick scheme, is most likely just gambling. And eventually, most gamblers lose. Therefore, with your money, I suggest you adopt the mentality of a casino, which is to say, I suggest you be an investor. I'm Jeff Drayton. Thanks for watching. Hey everyone, as always, nothing in this video is meant to be specific advice for you. Advice like that can only be had by working with a financial planner, someone who knows you and your situation. I would encourage you to seek out someone who is a certified financial planner. This is signified by the letters CFP with the registered trademark sign following his or her name. I would also encourage you to work with a fee-only financial planner. Now that's two words, fee-only, not fee-based, not fee plus commission. Both of those terms mean that the planner or advisor can receive commissions and is therefore not free of the conflict of interest inherent to commission sales. Again, I'm Jeff Drayton. Thanks for watching.